Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, good. All right, thank you. So it's just after 3, so I think we're going to get started. First of all, thank you for coming. My name is Steve Kulig. I'm the Associate Director at the Follette School of Public Affairs. And way in the back, we have Mo O'Connor, the Student Services Coordinator. You'll be hearing from her in a little bit. And right beside me, David Wright-Racette, the Student Services Associate, will be helping me with this presentation. I'm going to go through, this is going to be a very brief presentation, maybe around 10 minutes or so. Mostly what we want to do is get to your questions if you have them. So hopefully some of your questions will be answered with this presentation, but we're happy to stick around to answer any more. So on the agenda, presentation from the Follette staff, that's us. So you're in the right place. We're going to show you also our website and our FAQ page. So we've done a lot of work on trying to anticipate questions that students are going to have. So that'll be helpful. Again, we'll stick around until the end of the hour. And then, of course, there is a email that you can continue to reach out to us if you have questions after this presentation, and we're happy to help. All right, so the first thing I want to do is introduce you to the Follette School of Public Affairs. So we traditionally on campus are a 2-year master's degree program. So we currently only serve master's students. But as we've been looking at the landscape of campus, we have realized there is a major gap in terms of undergrad students having the ability to get the skills that we think are really important in terms of policy that will help you either once you graduate from your undergrad degree and look for a job, or if you're looking to go to some sort of graduate level school like the Follette School of Public Affairs. So one important thing to note that this certificate is open to all majors. We're not simply focusing on, say, what you think traditional majors would be interested in this, like political science or economics. We want to get students across the spectrum, across all majors at the university. We think that's really important because if you think about it, I don't think there's one major that you could name that doesn't have an interest or policy doesn't affect it, right? So if you're thinking that you're a little outside the norm in terms of a major, we certainly want you to come and ask us questions and see how that might fit into the certificate program. And as I mentioned, this certificate, our goal is to have you build some of the same skills that our graduate students are building to help you if you're thinking about a career in government, nonprofit, or even the private sector. That's getting more popular with our students as well. So the analytical and just the analytical skills and just the idea of how do you think about policy and, say, management in a way that will help you take the skills that you're learning with your major and apply them in a policy way. Also added bonus, because you're getting a certificate, it will give you an official credential on your transcript. That's something you can put on your resume that would, again, be helpful once you graduate, you're looking for a job, or if you're interested in applying for graduate school after your undergrad. Oh, I should mention, that is a picture of Bob LaFollette, our namesake. He was a progressive politician in the state of Wisconsin. He served in both houses of Congress and was the governor of Wisconsin. We could not get that microphone for the presentation, but maybe next time. So a big question that we get a lot is what is entailed in the requirements for the certificate. So I want to touch base on those just briefly. So there are 4 main requirements. So 4 classes that you have to take for a total of 12 credits. And they're broken into 4 categories. So the first one is what we call an introductory course. So there are currently 2 options available for you to complete that requirement. So the Follette School currently has a class being taught. It's Public Affairs 200. So that's being taught right now in the spring, but it's also going to be offered again this coming fall if you are interested. There's also a class in Political Science 272 that would satisfy this requirement as well. So the second category is what we're calling analytical tools for policy design, implementation, and evaluation. Essentially, these classes, the goal is to get you the hard skills that you're going to be able to use once you get the certificate when you're looking for those analyst jobs or other types of positions that would be useful for these certificate skills. So we have a few classes right now that are open. So specifically for Follette courses, we have Public Affairs 380, which is called Analytical Tools for Public Policy. There you're going to be learning about policy analysis, cost-benefit analysis, management, a number of other skills that our graduates currently utilize. So that's currently being taught this semester as well, and will again be taught next spring, in spring of 2020. And then starting in the fall, so fall of 2019, we'll be teaching a Public Affairs 278 course. It's in public leadership. And there'll be other options soon to come that we'll be sending out via email, so we're continuing to build the course schedule for this as well. So the two other requirements, first is our policy specialization class. So this is a nice option because there are so many course options available across campus. So this is where you can really think about what you're most excited about in terms of policy and take a look at what classes are available. So we just list a few of them on the screen. We're going to show you in a little bit a list of even more of them on our website. And there's one that I really wanted to point out here, and it's the last one listed, Public Affairs 523, Policy, Privacy, and Personal Identity in the Post-Genomics Era. That's going to be taught by a brand new Follette professor this fall, and it should be on the books very soon. So it's something you should be able to take a look at and enroll in when you're able to enroll in courses. So, and then the final requirement that we want to talk about is the fieldwork and internship course. So this is what we think is really important. You're going to not only take the coursework, but you're going to get the hands-on experience through this certificate. So there are a couple different options currently for you to satisfy this requirement. So there's the Wisconsin and Washington internship course. If you've taken that course, that would satisfy this requirement. There's another Poli-Sci 315 legislative internship course that would satisfy this requirement. And then coming soon, summer of 2020, Public Affairs 327 is the Follette administrative internship. So before I go any further, this will likely be the category that needs a little bit more work. There's going to be a lot of questions about exemptions, maybe courses you've already taken. So we can talk a little bit more about that in the Q&A. You know, what could potentially count. Sometimes it's going to be a case-by-case basis, so just keep that in mind. But we certainly expect some questions to come with this particular requirement. And now I will hand it off to David to talk about admissions.
Alrighty, thanks. You have to stick with me. My voice is a little hoarse, but have to please forgive me for that. So there will be an admissions process for the certificate. So there's going to be an online application. It's going to go live May 1st, so it'll be on our website. We'll show you where that's going to be. And then applications will be due May 31st. So just a couple weeks, it'll be up. So some of the requirements, you need to be in good academic standing. That means a 2.0 GPA. You also have to have a minimum of sophomore standing. You need to have taken or be enrolled for one course that satisfies certificate requirements. So we can show you all those courses later so you can know whether or not you meet that requirement. And then you will submit, as part of the online application, a letter of intent and a resume. So a letter of intent is kind of similar to a cover letter. We're asking for 1 to 2 pages max, double-spaced, and explains why you want to pursue the certificate and how it will help you achieve your academic or professional goals. There are some resources that we'll also point out later where you can get help on writing these types of things, whether it's through the Writing Center or through your Career Center, through your college. And then also a resume. So 1-page resume, we also ask that you submit that as part of the application. I'm just going to hop out here and show you what that'll look like. This is not yet live on our website, but just to give you a sense of what it looks like. In a second. Actually, I have it up already over here. Never mind. Okay. So it's just through a Google form. You're going to submit your name, email address, your campus ID number. That's the one you found on your WIS card. Your year in school. As far as credit totals, you can find that in your Student Center under the Academics tab if you're not quite sure where you fall based on credit totals. we'll ask for the course that you're currently enrolled in or have taken that satisfies certificate requirements. So that list, we'll show you again how to find this later, but that list, that full list is here. So you can know whether or not you meet that requirement. Your GPA, again, which you can find in your student center. And then there'll be a place where you can upload your resume and your letter of intent. So just through a Google form, it'll go live May 1st. You can always email us with any questions, give us a call if you're not sure about something. We're happy to answer those, but yeah. All right, moving on to advising. So in-person advising will be offered once first certificate cohort is accepted in summer 2019. Right now, any questions you can direct to certificate@lafollette.wis.edu. You can also ask them later today or after the presentation, but that is what we're offering right now. And the frequently asked question page, as Steve mentioned, is a good way to just the first check, like, oh, I have this question. I better check the FAQ to see if it's there, because it very well may be. I think what we're going to do now is I'm just going to pop out to our website to show you a little bit about how to get there and mention some of these resources we've been talking about. So this is the certificate homepage, undergraduate certificate in public policy at the top. If you end up just at La Follette's homepage, you can find us under admissions and undergraduate certificate, or academics and undergraduate certificate. Those actually just both go to that same page. That's how you can find us. So if you Google La Follette School of Public Affairs, or if you search on wis.edu La Follette, we should pop up. So our home, we're that house by Van Hise. We're between Van Hise and Liz Waters' dorm. I'll show you a little picture of our house, but that's where we're located, and it's also on our website. So right here, in case you are looking around for us. A couple other things I wanted to touch on the website is under program requirements here. You can click on that, and that'll take you over to all of those courses we talked about that satisfy certificate requirements. And they're broken down into the 4 categories. So introductory course options here, analytical tools, policy specialization, and then finally the fieldwork and internship course. I think, and then our application will be probably up at the top here once you go there on May 1st to find out where to apply. And then finally, our FAQs at the bottom. So these are, will pop down if you click on them so you can see the full text. I think at this point, I'm going to hand the mic over to Mo O'Connor, and we can take questions. So I think I'll be here, and if we happen to have the question, I'll pull it up on the FAQ, and we're happy to answer them. All right. Yeah.
Thanks, David. So one caveat is that this is a new program. So you may have questions that we haven't yet thought of. And if that's the case, then we will be writing them down. And you saw where the FAQ are on our page. And so that's where all the questions that we've gotten have informed the frequently asked questions. So I just want to put that out there, because I'm not afraid to say I don't know today. But if I don't know, we will work on it and get an answer to you soon. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to ask you if there are questions that you have right now that we can address. Yeah.
So I saw in the email, I think it was, and on the FAQs, how to go about requesting the course substitution.
Mm-hmm.
But before doing that, I was just kind of wondering what would make the most, how can I make it the most compelling case, or also how long do you think I'll find out, like what's the hassle with that? Is that something that's not going to be until I've applied and gotten in, or is that something that I can find out on the front end? It just seems like it's like my schedule.
Okay, so that's a great question, Ariana, and I'm going to repeat the questions. So the question is, if there's a course that I've taken and maybe I think it could be a substitution, what's the best process? So in the FAQ, and David is driving there right now, so you can see this on the screen behind me, we have, it's called a petition for special consideration form. And so this is where we want you to go. If you have a specific question, you've taken something, it really feels like it fits within one of those 4 categories, that Steve and David just discussed. Send us that form completed, follow directions. So in terms of, you asked, how do I make a case? I think you provide as much information about how it's relevant, how it's related. I do think course descriptions are really valuable. So you all have course guide, right? How many of you have heard of that? Okay, good. But that's where you can get a course description for any class that you've taken or want to take. So it can be helpful sometimes to look at, here's a course description for this specific course that I'm asking a substitution for. Here's why I think this course makes sense, right? So I think being able to really articulate that, if we have follow-up questions, we'll reach out to you. In terms of timeline, I think, as soon as you can get that to us, there's a process that initiates us working on that. But I can't tell you it's exactly going to be, 5 to 7 business days. But it may be around that. It's also depending on sort of what else is on our plates right now. So there's a lot of things going on, like there is for all of you. So we just ask for your patience. If you're like, it's been a while, then just email us and let us know, okay? Good question. Did you want to add?
Yeah, just adding quickly, so it doesn't go to a black box. You're looking at the group of people that read it. So we're going to try to, get together periodically. Some of them are going to be really easy and we're going to know right away, but some might take a little bit more time, and then we'll discuss among each other and just decide. And as Mo mentioned, this is brand new, so we're figuring out which courses make sense to include as we go. But what's really helpful to get those submissions is then we can start having those conversations, and then when we get a second one, we'll know and we'll be able to respond more quickly as well. So, but yeah, so it's not some robot that's looking at the request. It's going to be us. So,
good question. Other questions? Yes. Are any of the internship courses offered during the school year or only in the summer? So the legislative internship, 315, I believe, is offered during the academic year. So, and that's where you would be working with the state legislator, at the Capitol. But for the Follette internship, that is a summer course. Yeah. And the other one, PS 402, is the Wisconsin and Washington internship, in case some of you are aware of that program or are thinking about it or didn't know about it and now want to. That's another really great opportunity that exists. So, good question. Does that help? Okay, good. Yes? That's a great question for the poli-sci department. So I don't know the answer to that question because poli-sci runs that course. And so I'm going to see, do you have more to add?
I don't know for sure whether or not it's changed. I did take that course as a student here, so I had to find my own internship, applied, and then enrolled as part of the course. And I know for La Follette's internship course, we won't be placing students, so that's something you'll have to find on your own. We're happy to help direct you if you have a question like, oh, I'm looking for an internship in health policy or environmental policy. You can, of course, email us and say, like, do you know of organizations or something like that? But it's not something where we're placing students into internships. And I don't think that poli-sci does place students for 315. At least I know I wasn't, but you can follow up with them to find out for sure. I don't think they do.
And the people to follow up with in poli-sci would be Amy Gongel, G-A-N-G-L, or Alicia Bingham, B-I-N-G-E-N. Good questions. What else? Yes. That's a good question. So will we be admitting every semester, or is it just once a year? And right now the plan is we're admitting in the summer, just once a year. So it's great that you're here because you're aware of this process and this plan. If you like what you're admitted into, if this is your future, tell your friends. Because, yeah, that's not something that we're intending to do every semester. Just a second. And
just, it may be clear, but you can take the courses prior to applying to the certificate program. So we're certainly offering the Follette courses, and if you have taken other courses, you could finish 2 or 3 courses before you submit the application, which we'll certainly look at once you're able to do that.
But it does require some forethought, which is a good question. I saw a hand in the back. Yeah. Do you have to take the required courses in any sort of order? I think no. Right now, I would say, but we would strongly suggest an order. So we would suggest you take an intro course early on, right? And that you end with your internship, because it's going to make the most sense to really get the most out of that hands-on and practical experience if you've had some preceding coursework. So, but those of you in the room, how many of you think you have a class done already right now? Okay, I mean, a number of hands are up. How many of you are in a class right now? How many of you are signed up for a fall class? Okay, great. So, I mean, you're already making progress. And if you're in, one of those 4 categories and it's not an intro course, that's okay. But I do think that's an ideal place to start, and I do think the internship's an ideal place to end. Colleagues? Okay, good question. Other questions? Yeah. That's a great question. So, what do you think are the most valuable things that students admitted to the certificate program will get out of it? So I'm gonna let Steve start.
Yeah, great question. So I'll talk a little bit from the perspective of our graduate program, and I think it does kind of explain what you'll be getting with the certificate as well. So our graduate students, really the focus is you're coming in to gain a better understanding of public policy. So what does that mean? You're gaining skills in policy analysis to the point where you're able to consume policy, whether it's reading the news or it's looking at a survey or looking at a report, and you're also able to present policy, right? So if you're working for someone who needs, whether it's a legislator or if it's a supervisor at a state agency, being able to articulate very complicated policies in a way that is understandable to a lay audience is something that we really strive for at the Follette Graduate School, and I think that's something that you're going to be able to pick up with this certificate. It's also going to give you, I think one of the big things we emphasize that you might not realize is writing. Writing is extremely important for public policy, and we really focus on concise, clear writing at the Follette School. That's something that we're really going to focus on with this certificate. So what I think when you come out of this certificate program, you're going to have a better understanding of how public policy affects what you're interested in and passionate about, and it's going to build the skills that you're going to be able to articulate the points either that you're reading about or that you're creating for either a supervisor or just, when you're going on with your daily life and you're reading about policies or politics, it's going to help inform your understanding of what's going on. And then, from another practical side, I think it could help build a resume, whether it's for a job or for a next step in education. I mean, if this is an indicator, right, that you're really interested in public policy and potentially interested in pursuing a graduate level degree in public policy, whether it's at the Follette School or somewhere else around the country or in the world.
And I was going to say that too. It's an Onramp, right? So I mean, I do admissions work for the Follette School, so I do hope that this gives undergraduate students this opportunity that hasn't existed before. You're here for a reason. You're here because all of you can say there's some policy that matters to you, that's impacted your life or impacted you personally, right? So I think it's thinking about, what do I do with that? And how can I find some really practical places to learn more about how to impact and affect change that is related to that policy and beyond. So I think that's the really cool thing about this being a new program for undergrads. But I am secretly hoping that lots and lots of people who start as undergrads decide they want to continue and join our graduate program too. Other questions? Yeah. That's a great question. I would say that this first class is going to be relatively small. So, and by that I mean around 40, probably. But it's not a set number. We don't have, a set number that, it really depends on who's in our pool, too. So we want to make sure everyone has a really top-notch quality experience. So that's also going to inform how many people that we admit. Yeah. Yes, so do we have plans to add more courses? And so one of the beautiful things of having this petition for special consideration is we might find out there's this awesome course that we're not aware of that we need to make sure that we make available to students. So it is a way for us to also use that information. If we have several substitutions that have repeatedly come up, those are the types of courses that will eventually then work their way into the 4 categories that you saw. Mm-hmm.
And then on the Follette side, we, as I mentioned, we have been traditionally a master's degree program. So most of our faculty, that's the level that they're teaching. But we've had a lot of interest in our faculty wanting to develop new courses at the Follette School. And we are also in the middle of hiring a number of new faculty. And the goal when new faculty come to the Follette School is that they will be specifically teaching both at the undergrad and the graduate school level. So I think it's an exciting opportunity for some of our faculty who have been teaching at the graduate level to kind of dip their toe into the undergraduate level as well. So not only are we going to be adding classes around campus, but we're going to be building our own, and that social genomics class is one example of that, but we'll continue to be building that capacity in the next few years.
Another question. Yes.
So I'm interested in getting my bachelor's in public policy. I'm not sure if the certificate will fit in my schedule. I think this is like a make or break thing for graduate school.
That's a great question. So the question is, if I can't fit the certificate in, but I'm thinking that maybe in the future I want to do graduate education that's related to public affairs, public policy, public administration, is this going to be problematic? And I don't think it is. I think when the admissions committee is looking at students who are applying to the graduate program, we're looking to see where have you tested the waters? Where do you have related experience? Ultimately, that statement I made earlier, where does this idea that you want to study here come from? And what do you want to do with this education, right? So I think people have to be able to articulate that in their statement. Their resume helps us see that. We're looking also at your academic record. How did you do? UW-Madison requires anyone applying to the graduate program to have a 3.0 minimum cumulative GPA. So, we're looking for letters of recommendation from faculty who know you well, who can say, yeah, I had this student in this class, and this is what they were really passionate about, this is what they wrote about. So you want to be strategic, too, when you're thinking about who are your letter writers, and who do you develop relationships with now as an undergrad, because you should be doing this at this point in your lives. It's never too early to get to know faculty, right? So I think all of those pieces are part of what is being considered. You're not just your GPA, you're not just your GRE score. If you have the opportunity to take classes, great. But some of you, and we know this, you're going to have a lot of structured, academic experience already. So if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And then I think you continue to think about, how do I keep gaining experience? That's the key thing that I can tell you. And we're happy to discuss that further. So I meet with all prospective graduate students, or David and I do together. If you have follow-up questions, if you think, yeah, this is something I want to do in the future, it's not too early to come in. And some of you have already been there. So, all right, good question. What else? Last chance. You're also asking questions that, oh yeah, should we look, we'll look at a couple common questions that we've gotten, just to make sure that we don't miss anything in the FAQ. Can you go to the letter of intent? Yeah. So I think the biggest question probably lately is like, what is a letter of intent? And David mentioned it's a lot like a cover letter, but more reflection on your current major, what you're studying right now, and how this is going to help you move forward with future goals. So we understand developmentally you may still be deciding. That's really normal, and that's okay. But I think being able to articulate why this would be helpful for you moving forward. So it's a lot like a cover letter. And we really encourage you to use your resources. So how many of you have been to your career advisor in your school or college? Wow, that is awesome. Good job, people. And if you haven't, it's never too soon to get there either. Because they're the people who are going to read your cover letter. They're the people who are going to read your resume when you're applying for internships and jobs. And they will absolutely also be helpful in this regard. How many of you have used the Writing Center? Awesome. Okay. So the Writing Center, another really fantastic resource, right? So either place or both can be helpful as you're tuning up, what you're going to supply when you apply for the certificate in the future. Can't read that one.
Oh, yeah. You want me to run through a few of these?
Sure. I'm going to give this over to David now.
All right. So I'm just going to run through a couple more that have come up recently. So are there recommended campus resources? So Mo touched on this that I should use to support me with the letter of intent and resume. So she touched on Writing Center, your Career Center. So when you're going to apply and you're not quite sure how you want to format that, those are great resources. Another couple ones I wanted to touch on at the bottom was just if all certificate courses are offered every semester. So no. So for the Follette courses, for example, the Public Affairs 200, the introductory course, right now that is being taught in this spring, it's being taught again this fall, but it's not a guarantee it's going to be taught every semester. And then for courses like the policy specialization, those are offered some by the Follette, but some by other departments. So we don't know for sure when they might teach them. So always be the best place to check for sure what's being offered each semester is the Enroll app, because they're not guaranteed to be offered every semester. Let's see. At this moment, we don't teach any courses online, but other departments may be teaching courses that meet certificate requirements online. So if you find in this list here that there's a course taught online by another department, of course that would satisfy our requirements, but we're not teaching any courses online at the moment. And then a lot of students ask about discounting towards their major requirements. Often poli-sci majors ask that as well. So that's something you need to check in with your political science advisor. We're not sure how they are going to accept or not accept our courses to count towards their degree. So definitely check in with your advisor if you want to know if one of our courses will count towards that major. Yeah.
And just also related to that, you can always look up how a course is coded, right? So is it counting as an elementary or intermediate or advanced level course? Is it coded as a humanities or a social science or both? So your DARS report also for your major will indicate where courses show up, right? So that's another way for you to be able to look and see where they're counting. So they will count toward degree requirements. That's important to know, but the specifics about your major are specifically to be taken to your major advisor.
All right. If there's any other questions, we're happy to take them. Otherwise, we are available until 4 to answer questions, or if you're not quite sure how to formulate it and you want to email us or give us a call, you can do that as well. Our contact information is at the top of the page here. So thanks, everyone. Oh, yes.
And this doesn't have to be the last time you see us. So in the fall, we will be offering, it'll be some type of a celebration of the kickoff of the certificate. So this is just a heads up that it's coming, and we invite you to come to that, and we'll be sharing information with all of you who attended today. Okay.